The next session is going to be real estate and hospitality post-COVID era. I believe we belong to a hotel industry. Major Shetties belong to hotel industry. So this session is definitely going to put some insight, like what needs to be done and what could be the possibilities for the post-COVID era. I would welcome on stage Mr. Pradeep Shetty, Director, Maharaja Restaurant. He's going to moderator for this session. We have one more Mr. Pradeep Shetty who is going to be our speaker. Mr. Pradeep Shetty, Chairman, Heritage Group. Dr. Vikram Kamath, Founder Chairman, the WITS Kamath Groups. Mr. Gurbakshish Singh Kohli, MD Preetham Hotel, Preetham Da Daba, and Grand Mama's Cafe. I hand over the session to Mr. Pradeep Shetty from Maharaja Restaurant.
Thanks. Thank you. Good evening, gentlemen and ladies in the house. Pleased to be here amongst the Chamber of Industries of the Buns. We have with us three distinguished speakers who've accepted the invitation and willingly to be a part of this interactive session. While we look forward for this industry in specific, we look forward with great positivity and hope. But can we really overlook what has gone past? We've had one of the most turbulent times. This industry in particular is considered, regarded to be the most affected industry, which has witnessed a complete closure for 10 months, going through the waves, different waves of the pandemic. And what we shall strive to achieve in this session is flagging of the pain points running through the pandemic and its waves, and the measures that each of the experts that took to mitigate the hardship faced by the industry, by the people involved in it, and what lies ahead, how do we stay afloat amidst such levels of disruption and stay relevant. I'll start with you, Mr. Kohli. What we've seen coming, the pandemic hit, and one of the classic problems of workforce migration, sudden freezing of all revenues. Then you had issues with between landlords and with the rent issues. Then the bigger issues, that of asset management. I mean, for the first time, I think all of us felt that it was not a happy situation owning an asset. Can you share with us an experience on what exactly happened and how were you able to deal with all these issues?
Yeah. So, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Pradeep. Am I audible? Yeah, I can. Yeah, these, going through these times, I think everybody's been affected very, very adversely, and more so the hospitality industry, which has taken the largest hit, as we all are aware. So this has been like a learning experience, I'd say. When it started, nobody knew how long this would last. We all sort of underestimated, its life. Unfortunately, it only grew, and that's why we had closures for a year and no work for 18 months. Yes, coming to your question, yes, there were issues like you pointed out. Largely, the hospitality industry leans on employee and employment. It's one of the largest generators of employment, and that we had was very, very large exodus of employees away. That is reverse migration, as you call it. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty because everybody knows what has happened. Uh, you asked me how, if I understand right, how I as a or us as a group, sort of manage this. Well, to tell you the truth, it was all a learning experience. If I did something and if I did not succeed, I'd be receiving brickbats. And if I did something and I succeeded, I get accolades. That's how it works. It is not something that I envisaged and I imagined. Uh, I think when we all, most of us are into that trade, into the business, we all accept workforce as a family. And we knew that this pandemic was hurting us, hurting our families. Uh, I won't say it was something that I realized. That's what we thought it should be done, is that to keep some of our workforce down. We never knew when it's going to stop, when it's going to start. It could restart again. And if I had all my staff away, I would not be able to restart. There are a lot of without naming anyone, but there were a lot of institutions that could not start even when they started because of lack of manpower. So we handled it that way. What was more important, I thought, was to keep the kitchen fires of our workers burning. Uh, this man leaves his state, comes to work for us to make a living. If we do not or cannot offer him that livelihood, somehow I think we are responsible for it. So whatever we could, we've all been cash strapped. Our resources and our working capital and our reserves were all used for this. And I think that was a good investment we made. As I said, if it wouldn't work out, I would be facing the gallows. But it did work out. So that was one thing we did with our staff. Second is a lot of my restaurants, out of my 16 restaurants that we have in Mumbai and Pune, we renegotiated our contracts. And I was very happy or really lucky to have landlords, a few of them were owned by me, landlords who could actually, come to terms with that. I think that establishment of a landlord-tenant relationship is very, very important. That he understands that if you're going to leave and go, or if he's going to throw you out, there's nobody going to come and replace him. So renegotiated. He has to think from my point of view that, I'm not going to get any revenue, and I have to think from his point of view because that is a part of his revenue. So that way is a compromise in some sorts. And thinking out of the box, I think I'm not going to take any credit for that. It's just, I think, business model innovation, finding out different revenue streams. 5 stars have gone in for something like deliveries. Although deliveries are not, all of us are aware, it's a myth that deliveries will be driving your business any further. It's not going to happen like that. But people were doing it, I think 5 stars and even smaller restaurants were doing it only to generate that little income which would keep their businesses going around. So this is generally what we all did. Taking care of our staff, which actually paid up. Renegotiating our contracts with everybody, our AMCs, our service contracts, and thirdly, as I just mentioned, thinking out of the box and creating different revenue streams, whatever we could think of and whatever was allowed at that time.
Correct. So basically, you looked at how could you bring your costs down. While there was no revenue, you were looking for newer avenues of revenue. So Vikram, while Gogi rightly said that your workforce is still the most key element in your business, but we reached a stage during this pandemic, and what it taught that you or yourself were being questioned whether you will survive or not. So it is your survival and then everybody else who's behind you. So it is a very tough call to take. You have a pandemic in front of you which you were not aware what is the shelf life of this pandemic. Okay, we woke up every circular that came from the government every month and it kept on increasing. Had it been the case when you were told in March 2020 that this is go on for a year, then you know you were prepared. Do you think that really was one of the death knells for this industry? You know, vis-a-vis management of workforce, management of assets, and your operations, and looking for anything else also. And and how different was it for you being situated in different geographical locations? You're not concentrated in Mumbai or Pune like how Gogi is. How different was you to deal with these issues?
So excuse me. So I'll give you a different perspective. So as a person, when lockdown started, everybody was like, oh, itna time ghar mein bitane ko mil raha hai, roj video dekho, late utho. And I still remember standing in the line to take all, whatever was available in the store, you had to just take and go. And it seemed very great because desh ke liye kar rahe hain, we have to do lockdown. And the first 1 month went like that. Then suddenly dawns that, this is going to go on for much, much longer. And that's when the realization set in, when staff was like, humko gaon jana hai, humko immediate jana hai. And surprisingly for staff, amazingly, whenever they have to go to their hometown, they immediately get the ticket. But when they have to come back, abhi ticket nahi mil raha hai sir, abhi kya kare, aap ye karo, wo karo. So, they don't know, there's some law of physics which works ki jate waqt ticket milta hai, lekin aate waqt kabhi nahi milta hai. So, this all had to be handled. And we had a peculiar situation because many of our restaurants are on highways, many of us are in different municipalities. We have to follow the state norm, the first national circular, then state circular, then local municipality circular, then where you are in Gram Panchayat, the Gram Panchayat circular, and then, places people say, you are not allowed to open the restaurant. So many people are going to Goa by road. Many of our restaurants are on the highway, on NH4, on the old highway, on the new Pune, Kolhapur highway. So in Satara, till now it is in red zone. And the restaurant, they're like, nahi, tumhi chalu keलं तर, आम्हाला ते corona आमच्या गावात येणार. So there's so much of lack of information, lack of clarity in general, which creates a lot of problem where you are ready to open, you've got your staff from everywhere, but you're not allowed to open. So this uncertainty is what creates a lot of problem. Even in the second wave, a lot of us restaurateurs, all restaurateurs, with great, or rather I should say all restaurateurs, with a lot of difficulty. After the first wave, they put money together, paid for staff to come by flight, train, whatever it is. And then they've come, and then the second wave was, suddenly announced, where it was assumed ki nahi, abhi nahi hoga, or it will be allowed with restrictions. So I think that puts a lot of business in jeopardy, because in the end, uncertainty always kills any business. So we managed to, work where we put a lot of restrictions, or we put a lot of signages, boards, reduced our services, made as much as possible self-service. In whatever was allowed, basically we reduced the interaction of staff to make sure that in the limited staff only, our hotels and restaurants were operating where they were allowed to operate. But other than that, there's really not much you could do.
Okay. So, Pradeep sir, coming back to the real estate, I would reckon that the impact was much less in terms of closures and restrictions that were impacted to your industry. And I guess you were shut down for 3 months or so. But how were your challenges different from these challenges, and what did you do as an, as an entrepreneur or as your business head to deal with the issues? Of course, you also faced lockdowns. You had sudden migration of your workforce, and you may have had projects wanting to be delivered. How did you deal with that situation?
Hello. Good evening, everyone. Yeah. See, After post-lockdown, we had a big challenge because major projects are redevelopment where members are out and we are paying rentals to them and the time-bound schedule is there. So we had a very difficult time. So, and as you rightly said, workers are gone back. There's no workers. So, but government is kind enough to give a relaxation after May 19th. So after first lockdown, so when we started again offices, and by June 8th we are back in business, and we brought back laborers and we paid the double the salary, and we completed the project. We understood that this is future is very difficult and tough times there. And again, the huge debts are there. Financial loans are taken for complete on a projects, so which needs to be paid back. And government gave us the concession. Financial institutions, they helped us. Emergency credit line they gave us to come over the situation. So then, finally, what happened that we need to pump in our own reserves and we need to complete the projects. And we stood there and we got the work and completed it. And during this period, and meanwhile, government came out with a discount in stamp duty that really helped us. And I can tell you that in 6 months' time, we cleared all our inventories, and definitely at a lower price than market. So, but touch wood, we are back in business. Then again, second lockdown came in. So then again, we had what needs to be done. Then again, but our work never stopped in second lockdown. So we are working and under the guidelines and under the bubble and what are the protocols are given to us by industry and government. So based on that, we completed the work, and now real estate industry is back in business, and now we are. I think there is less of a challenges. So I can say today is better than yesterday. So that kind of a scenario.
So I think as a as an industry, be it real estate or hospitality, I think we will have to now bring a pandemic specific rule into our manuals. You have to be ready for such an eventuality. And I think going forward, any of you can, express their views on what do you think, is it going to be a trend where you will want to be asset light, you want to be low on capex for the next few years coming? And I think by consensus, we can definitely say that there is a learning in such a manner that you have to be ready for exigencies and emergencies of this matter. I mean, if you can have your views, whoever.
I think definitely what we learned is that we are changing our business model whereby the scope, I mean, like you said, we would rather be in a Bombay and Pune and be in a smaller region so that your overhead of head office, overhead of number of area managers, staff, because when something like this happens at the ground level, theek hai, they are earning money. When the restaurant is operational or even lesser restaurants are operational, from there you're generating revenue. But having a big setup, having a large HO, having a more decentralized approach, that doesn't work. So definitely we'd want to concentrate now on a smaller geography for at least the next 2-3 years. That is definitely from a business plan, that's something that will change. As far as asset light goes, it's just making your balance sheet is very important, and making sure that even if you reduce cost, reduce your staff cost, reduce other costs, in the end, interest is the biggest pain. And that is at the mercy and discretion of the bank. I say discretion, but actually it's at the mercy. So basically, if you have to structure it in such a way whereby you have some reserve, have at least 3-6 months reserve, don't be overstretched, always assume that any eventuality can happen. And like olden times, how you used to have a reserve fund in some way or the other, like that every hotelier and restaurateur will have to think to keep some kind of reserve fund whereby cash flow keeps coming so that at least the situation can be tided over. Maybe get part of it, delivery is one small part, but maybe every restaurant which has a prime area will have to, like how every medical shop has become today a glorified grocery store, come selling Coke, Pepsi, this, that, everything. I mean, a medical shop is selling ice cream also. So like that, we will also have to come up with something ki 100-200 square foot or 300 square foot, or tie up with Swiggy, sorry, not Swiggy, Amazon, grocery or something, whereby ऐसे कुछ situation में the moment you use your real estate for some other allied business where something keep working.
So would you therefore, Gogi, feel that, this industry of hospitality has it been robbed out of its glamour? because of the pandemic, industry which everybody felt can never shut down. Eating out or eating is the most basic necessity, of course, other than having homes. So you think this pandemic has robbed its glamour out, and or you think it has enough time to bounce back?
No, I'm glad you mentioned the word glamour because, as we say, the grass is always greener on the other side, and that is what is actually been the downfall of the industry, where people who walked into a restaurant on a Friday or a Saturday or a Sunday thought that was what it was. They never thought what happens on a Monday or a Tuesday or a Wednesday or a Thursday. So while I'm not against people coming in this thing, it actually invited the wrong kind of people who thought this industry was very glamorous. All of us sitting here know that we have no social life. It is not glamorous. It is really, really hard work. I'm sure as every other business involved also has hard work. But what the person can see is a crowded place, lots of music, everybody wanting to know the owner because he can then call you and get a table when it's not actually available. So I don't think there was any glamour except in the minds of those who did not know the industry. And what, at the risk of sounding very pompous and for the lack of a better word, rude, I think this pandemic has actually, it has differentiated the men from the boys. Unfortunately, I have to say this, but we know the industry has faced almost 30% or more closures. And most of them have been those who would not be able to sustain due to high rents, high salaries, which I don't think anybody who has experience would ever even think of indulging in. So it is not, I don't think it's, I'll not even use the word glamour. I don't think it's robbed of anything. I think it's just taught us to be more frugal. It's taught us to be more, it has taught us how to use our resources more efficiently. I don't think, earlier we would just add on staff and add on things which were not really necessary because we never thought something like this could happen. So this is a wake-up call. And this is what at least my personal learning has been. Not, you're in the association with me, you know what kind of issues we face every day. But wearing the hat of an owner or an operator, I think that the take back I would get is that we've learned a huge lesson. It has actually made us more efficient and with the use of aided technology, etc., etc. But that is what it has actually taught us.
So, from the real estate perspective, how do you think business has evolved because of the year that went by and the pandemic? And what rules in your business have changed?
Definitely, it's a huge change. Post-pandemic, things have changed drastically because earlier people, major changes what I can see is that financial discipline has come in. So those who are indisciplined, they are out of business, and this is a major cause for people go out of their business because of indiscipline, financial indiscipline. So this pandemic taught us a new lessons, and no one was thought of this situation. Now things are changed. Now we are now very cautious with our funding, cash management, cash flows. These are the major things. And secondly, even technology, because our labor migration has happened and labor cost has gone up, material cost has gone up. So now we need to get into new technology, construction, how to reduce the timeline, and then that is that earlier you finish the project, you will save the money. So that is that's the reason we are going ahead with the technology, using the technology, RMC method, the ready-mix concrete. I can say a lot of in the smallest contractor is using the technology, is using the machineries, so where he can reduce the manpower. So this is a new norm, and again that another aspect is that we are going ahead with the full-fledged digital marketing. So marketing has changed. Now earlier people are like in a traditional way, it's a, what is called hoarding marketing and the paper marketing. So this print media marketing. So these things are now changed into digital. So people are more on active on a social media because of pandemic. People are sitting at home and they are visiting websites. And now, as per new survey, so all the realtors, so almost 91% of people are active on social media. So, and the purchaser of almost 40 to 50% people search their house through these various portals and through various medium digitally available. Then they decide. That influences their decision. So the marketing has changed, and this will be the new norm. So, and this, I don't think so this will remain as it will evolve into differently. So we all need to be prepared for future. So, and those people will only survive in the industry who are ready to take the change, and they can see the change. They have the vision for next 4 to 5 years, what needs to be done.
So from what emanates from what Pradeep said is that financial discipline being one of the key today, because when the future is uncertain, you don't have enough time to leverage, okay, or to recoup back what you've lost. So therefore, financial discipline on a regular basis is what is called for. But in terms of hospitality, what has evolved, what I could see is deliveries took a big upturn, then there were deliveries and takeaways took a big upturn, and then all the digital space and all the transactions happening in digital space, these were the new things which are very apparent to happen. And whereas many of us or the general public felt that restaurants are shut down, but they could realize that delivery is very easy now. There are thousands of riders and you can get food from any corner of the city. Having said that, what do you think, Vikram, that do you think this is a transitory phase, or this is there is a sense of permanency to these changes which are happening? Changes in terms of the share of revenue that a delivery had to a restaurant business or a takeaway had, and the importance of getting engaged on social media or on digital space. This, of course, since the advent of this generation, this 2000s, it was on. But do you think this has become more relevant today and it is going to be permanent, or you think the moment the pandemic is over, people are going to go back to what they were and they'd say, let's move on?
No, I think that it's permanent in the sense that are people looking to meet less often? No, I think what pandemic has taught us is that this business is here to stay. The moment people are allowed to meet, there's no restrictions put on them, then everybody wants to have a good time. We are here today. Everybody wants to be social. Everybody wants to meet each other. People were meeting at home also, instead of when restaurants were not allowed for small get-togethers. So this business is definitely here to stay, despite the gloom and doom. But there is definitely a permanent change. If you see the frequency of orders, which has happened in the last 18 months, it has at least quadrupled, even without Swiggy and Zomato. Okay, so delivery is here to stay. 3-hour grocery delivery is here to stay. The way we are living our lives is completely different. Today, every child under the age of 18 already has an email address, an account, a Google account, knows how to use maps, knows how to. So the whole lifestyle is completely changed forever of everybody. People are ordering home at least twice, thrice a week, which perhaps to change that habit may have taken years. So it bodes well for the industry. Definitely, while there are many closures and all, but people are looking to go out. And I'm sure that over the next 2-3 years, things will change. The way we do business, technology will change. Technology has to be upgraded at hotels. Hotels will have to improve their technology. Hotels or even restaurants will have to improve their tech as a whole. Things will change permanently, but they will remain the same in terms of people want to go out, people want to enjoy, people are looking for experience when it comes to a restaurant, and people are looking for convenience when it comes to delivery. But the number of orders, the sheer size of the entire industry, I think has changed drastically, and it's a great opportunity for everybody to come in. But obviously now there will be new segments. 5 years back, there was no delivery-only kitchen. There was no restaurant which was only doing delivery and only doing takeaway. It was always, 20%, 15% is coming from delivery. So that's changed permanently. New formats have come up. Maybe, like I said, new formats of retail, restaurant will come up. So that will be a permanent change, but the industry as a whole of meeting, having a good time is not going to change.
So Gogi, Vikram feels that this change is of permanent nature, be it resorting to more of deliveries, be it of our revenues going up vis-a-vis the deliveries alone, greater emphasis on digital space, and all the QR codes and payment methods and gateways. Do you really concur with him that these changes are there to stay and we will have to adapt to this?
See, I have a slightly different point of view. While yes, some changes have come and they will be staying here. What is the biggest take from this pandemic? I think three things I will point out is one is hygiene, which will stay and which should stay. In our field, I think that was already being adhered to. It's only enhanced, which is a good thing. Hygiene is always good. So that is what's good is that now even the lower level staff who was not actually understanding why am I asked to wash my hands or to wear different clothes or etc. is now adapting to it voluntarily because everybody has been affected by this. Second is the use of tech. I think QR codes, yes, I know in some of my restaurants already people have stopped using QR codes. They do not want QR codes. They said, please take this away and give me a manual menu now that it is out that it does not spread from surfaces. So yes, there will be some changes. Tech will be there, marketing change would be there, and innovation will be there.
Which was an evolving issue.
Yes, so these are evolving issues. But if you say, let's talk about takeaways. As I said earlier, takeaways were not started. They started as a different revenue stream, not to compensate for what you have. It's never going to compensate.
It can't substitute the
It
in-dining
can't
unit.
substitute that. So yes, while they will be there, I think see hospitality or restaurants or hotels, they all thrive on experience. You go to a place for the experience. Even if you order food from that place, when it comes to your house, that experience is not there. So it's all about man is a social animal. See, the proof is here. So many of us have come here manually. You could be easily logging on Zoom, but no, you want to go out. So man is a social animal. Somewhere that need to meet people. I want to meet people. I want to go to my friend's house. I want to, shake hands with them. I want to hug them. I want to sit down. I want to have a glass of whatever I want to have with them. So I think that will all come back. These are just initial concerns. And once you address the concerns of hygiene, I think that's, and the fear goes away, I think slowly and surely we'll come back. Of course, we'll be more careful and more evolved, but we will, most of them will not be permanent. That's my take on this.
Yeah. The biggest evidence being that this event has been held and people are... So there is a sense of fatigue which has come in, we would say in some part of the other, while someone agrees that this is permanent, even Pradeep agrees, and you feel that some of them may be permanent, but then as things move on, people will forget. Of course, yeah, use of sanitizers has gone down drastically. But again, the three key elements, even in what are distinguish the evolving scenario under the pandemic times is, one is the way the sales are done, second is the way the marketing is done, and third is health, safety, and hygiene. I think these are the three key things which should the industry adopt for its own benefit going forward. And I think, would you agree, Pradeep, that these are the three elements, would it go for your industry as well, as these are the three elements which is here to stay besides all the other changes that might have happened?
We cannot compare hospitality industry to real estate industry. Our industry works very differently because we are not interacting with the people like you all. Hospitality industry. So, but here in our industry is that change is permanent, and definitely, and from here things will evolve to next level. So definitely, it's we all real estate people, we understood the situation now, marketing norms, everything, construction norms, and finance norms. Earlier, under construction projects. Easily we used to sell the under construction projects with only putting up a hoarding. Now things have changed. Now nobody is ready to buy an under construction project because a lot of uncertainties that what happens if third wave comes and further lockdown happens. So then Nowadays, before starting the project, we do a financial closure. So total financial closure of the project. So then we get into the project. Otherwise, it's very difficult because uncertainty is too much. So we cannot work on assumptions. So this is our industry is actually is you have to have a ekdam proper calculation. So then only we can get it closed. I feel is the key to take it forward that you take up a project, do a financial closure, so you get all the approvals in place because every now and then government is changing the norms of the construction, rules are getting changed that is affecting the progress of the work. So we need to, on a day one, we need to have a complete approvals in place, then financial closure, then we get into the project. So irrespective of market, irrespective of sales. So definitely sales will happen because real estate is again a necessity commodity because everybody needs a Mumbai is still that gap is huge, supply demand gap is there. So I feel things are better. I feel next couple of years is a good time for a real estate industry.
So Vikram, do you think health and safety and marketing and sales, I think these are the key elements, takeaways from the pandemic? As they say, there's always a silver lining, even in disaster. So would you think these are the key elements, and whether it is really good for the industry to stick to them?
It's not about whether it's good for the industry or no. This is now the reality. This you have to accept that high-speed internet, so many people are traveling with their kids, somebody's attending school. Any and everybody today, even when on traveling, has one video conference or one call at least in a day. So this has now become the part of the infrastructure that all guests are expecting. Every hotel now has to keep at least 10 type of charger, extension cord, lighting for the video conference, one stand, one this, one that. So pehle you had to keep iron in the room, safety locker, this, that. Now you have to keep all these extra things also. Because people forget it, the 10, 50, God knows how many type of mobile chargers are there in the market today. C type, A type, B type, F type. So that all hotels will have to now modify their offering. Like I said, people are going to travel for sure, but now this is what they need. So these kind of things are what hotels will have to live up to on the IT front. Definitely when it comes to staffing, it's a great opportunity which hotels will have to now institutionalize the changes that staff is willing to make. Today staff are much more open to doing multitasking, which earlier they thought, nahi, mera kaam itna hi hai, mujhe itna hi karna hai. So now they're already ready because they have in their mind ki okay, because of corona, staff bhi kam hai, sabko sab kaam karna hai. We should not allow them to go back in that mode where they think ki nahi, yehi ek tera kaam hai, yehi karna hai. We should increase the efficiency which they are now used to. Guests also compromise happily sometimes when you tell them time lagega, order mein time lag sakta hai, ya ye hai, ya gardi hai. So we should now take little advantage of these things and institutionalize these changes so that as hoteliers, as restaurateurs, apna bhi profit line bade. In less people, we should be able to do more, which earlier their mindset was not conducive to that. If we can do these things, then only we can take advantage of the pandemic. नहीं तो IT वाला बहुत कमाया, सब जन घर पे OTT देख के और कमाएगा वो. और so we have to see how it will benefit our industry, which definitely on the staffing front, multitasking, efficiency, getting more work done by making them more productive. These all things we should definitely encourage and institutionalize.
So Gogi, it means this is definitely going to be helpful in terms of augmenting efficiency of our operations. And would you therefore believe that even especially the health safety measures, so many new measures can be brought in, and as Vikram rightly said, we have to institutionalize it. Also on the tech front, all of this is going to augur well because efficiency comes in, your manpower requirement may go down.
Yeah, absolutely. I said it earlier also that these are the basic takeaways. Health is always good. Hygiene is always good. And especially for our industry. The unfortunate part is, as Vikram had also earlier pointed out, that there are so many protocols from so many different agencies. I think now they're all dying down. It's better not spoken about. All of us have gone through that. So, yes, tech is a big, big learning and a big takeaway. A lot of technically challenged people have actually made a progress, as pointed out by Vikram very rightly, that Earlier, a person would do only one job and he said, no, this is not my domain. Now, I think somewhere the fear of him losing that job or being replaced by somebody more efficient is driving him to take up those extra, extra activities where he says, I can do it and I can stay back. So, while it is unfortunate that, times have come to this, but as I pointed out, efficiency, it's all taught us to be more frugal. Hospitality and real estate are two different things, and you cannot actually look at them from the same prism.
Especially
So,
the reach of
yeah,
social
yeah,
media,
yeah,
the
absolutely.
penetration is so enormous. And if we adapt to those changes, they are definitely going to benefit. I would say it's a cheaper mode of marketing. Right?
Absolutely.
If you don't have to invest in a big team, it's still cheaper mode. And I know of so many owners now themselves managing their own social media and posting every now and then. You have to reach to people's handsets. I think that's going to be the target. So I'll just want to give a stats on the state of affairs because we're looking at how the industry is going to grow from here on. Statistics say that in India there are about 95,000 hotels and maybe about 6 to 7 lakh rooms in the country. And our requirement is way high because if you look at a similar economy in China, the number of rooms are almost in excess of 5 million rooms. So while we want to compare to economies like that, we have a real problem in people's ability to set up rooms. It could be policy issues, it could be monetary issues, it could be infrastructural issues. So Pradeep, what do you think? How is the real estate scenario now geared up to help encourage the growth of this industry? Clearly, there is a shortfall of hotel rooms that is there vis-a-vis the number of tourists that are coming in. And there is usually a cry for spaces which are available at very high rent. So those are an issue. So in terms of adding rooms and in terms of making available affordable spaces for entrepreneurs to do business, you think the real estate is really geared up here, or you think, or let us know what is that really ails if it's not?
See, basically, in metros, real estate is very costly. So, and if you ask me today, honestly, because if you want to start a restaurant business in purchasing a property, so it's a ROI it will take 15 to 18 years to get the ROI. So it's very difficult. And I think you should. I think the option. Second option is the leasing option. Leasing option is, I think, post lockdown, release rentals are come down drastically, and even our tenants are negotiated with us, and they reduce the rentals. And I think this is a good time to get into a rental mode where asset light you can go for it. And other suggestion is that we as a real estate industry and hospital industry work together and pressurize the government. For example, I'll tell you, recently I am launching one project which is under 3311. That 3311 says that you construct a permanent transit camp in some other slum within a 5 kilometers of your plot. So you get an incentive FSI. So incentive FSI is almost double than regular FSI. So that is the incentive towards us that I can construct a permanent transit camp and hand it over to government, and I'll get that FSI in my property. So same way, if government comes up with if we propose it to government that you give us something that kind of an incentive to developers, it will be a great help to achieve the target on a faster mode. Otherwise, it will be a very difficult scenario, what I see at
Frankly,
present.
don't see a correction happening where
Yeah, I don't think so correction will happen
given
because
the
already
fact-
correction has happened. So in last 2 years, so almost you can say 50% people are out of business. So correction is already taken place. So developers are gone out of
correction in terms of the prices.
prices. I
Correction
don't
in
think so
terms of-
because correction prices will not take place because cost has gone up. So because if from here if it goes down, so project is not going to be not feasible.
No, given the fact, Pradeep, that there is now a discount on premiums from the government side, there was a discount on
Yeah, right.
the stamp duties also, which you spoke
Yeah.
about, the way it helped you. Do you think those benefits being transmitted on to the consumers?
Definitely, that price correction will be there in couple of years because huge projects will be launched in couple of months because December is a deadline for to the premium. So almost in a micro market like Shembu, around 78 projects are, I mean, there people are launching in next couple of months. So there definitely the price correction will be there, but not to the extent what people are expecting to earlier days of 2010-12. It will not come to that level. It will stabilize, I feel so.
So Vikram, he feels there is no real correction that is coming, and the biggest pain point that being of how do we really grow, and in a scenario where ROIs are almost 15 to 18 years, what really ails and what you think should be really done so that the growth of this industry is not impeded?
See, when we see it as a larger industry, firstly, like you said, that everybody thinks this industry is very glamorous, because when you think of restaurant and hotel industry, people only think of five-star hotel industry and nightclubs, disco. But industry is so much larger. There is ordinary 1200 room hotel, 15 room hotel, 2000 room hotel, 5000, whatever. There are different this thing, corporate hotel, lodges. Then in restaurants also we have the common man where they are eating what in we call Udupi in Bombay, or common this thing. Then there's mid-scale restaurants, there's casual dine. So like that, the industry is actually very large. The glamorous part is maybe only 1%, 2%, but that creates the aspiration ki yaar aise hai. So if we want at 300 rupees a square feet, 350 rupees a square feet today, if you see in Bombay, how it is possible that a common man can get idli dosa at 70 rupees, which he is not willing to pay more. Then what is happening is restaurants feel ki redevelopment karna hi acha hai, and that many restaurants, if you think of, let's take an example of Nariman Point. How many new restaurants have come up in Nariman Point in last 30 years? Right, correct. There is no restaurant because it is not affordable only. Same way, if you see most of the areas, unless proper policy is done whereby earmarcation, demarcation is done, zoning is done, that this has to be, you know, amenities like how RG ground is there when you make a building. कि इतना आपको play area, park area, road widening सब करना है. Like this restaurant or a place to eat is a social infrastructure in a place like Mumbai, where people are coming from Badlapur, Kalyan, coming to work in Dadar. He cannot get up in morning, or his wife, of course this is very sexist comment now, that his wife will make the tiffin. Could be husband also has to make the tiffin nowadays. तो कोई भी सुबह उठ के टिफिन बना के जाना करना, काम पे आना, work पे भी करना, it's not logically possible. So unless this policy changes are there, like in real estate industry, to encourage low income housing, mid level housing, MHADA is there, these all policies are there कि transit camp बना है. ऐसे ही we have to come out with or stress on the whereby proper zoning happen, where mid-level restaurants also can open up, where people can eat breakfast, lunch, dinner on a regular, on a good rate. If we see many years ago that Zunka Bakar scheme came, which is why at every nook and corner there is one Are Doodh booth, which has basically got converted into a mid-level restaurant, and all the business of Udupi is now going to the hawkers, because they only can afford. Standard restaurant cannot afford. So that change has to happen, and that can only happen through a policy initiative, or until builders reduce the rate, which doesn't seem to be happening, and we can find it affordable again to purchase real estate.
So Ogi, carrying on from there, it needs a definite policy advocacy issue, and what we've seen and what through the medium of the Federation of the Hotel Association in India, we've said that our revenue, which was at 1.8 lakh crore of the industry, almost 1.35 had been wiped off. Then there is the innate strength of the employment generation capacity of the industry. Do you think really this shift of focus happening from the point of view of the policy maker on recognizing this industry as a key to employment generation or a key to revenue generation, so that you get the similar kind of benefits and stuff that a IT industry gets, and so that you have entrepreneurs over here who are encouraged to build more and more restaurants? Clearly, as Vikram said, that at rental spaces available at 300 per square feet, and plus the capex that goes into it, which is enormous as compared to any other industry. The growth of industry is really in tatters to look at.
See, growth can happen when it is aided and when it gets people who want to come and accept that facility available. So, you know, we've been talking to the government center as well as the states very, very vehemently, telling them how important this is. Not that they don't know it. We are one of the largest employment generators. We are one of the largest revenue earners.
8
We
to
are-
9% of the GDP.
Yes, we are also one of the largest tax earners. So, still to get a little ignored, I don't want to get into that mode. But what we need to do is, see, the math is simple. For example, take the hotel, take travelers. Foreign travel is not going to happen till everything gets sorted out. So domestic travel is, we've seen road travel happening a lot. Very, very close destinations. People have been going out, Alibag, Mahabaleshwar, etc., Lonavala, where we never ever expected that there'll be so much of a boom. This, we've been telling the government, for everybody here, that we need to, I was talking about the math, sorry. So there's about 11 million to 12 million inbound travelers to India and 26 million outbound. It makes definitely sense to incentivize or capitalize those 26 million people who would have traveled if opportunity was available but now cannot travel. So if we can get a little portion of that to travel within our country, it'll be great. How do you get them to travel? We've been asking the government to incentivize domestic travel. Incentive can be from anywhere. It can be a tax deduction or a deductible expense in your for a few years, at least in your IT. It can be reduction of GST. Now that's for the policymakers to decide. But I think if something like this happens, it will invite people not to ignore our own country and to travel within. And once this starts, it sets the ball rolling, and the hospitality industry will then also start affecting the other ancillary industries, and everything will go around. So while we are trying really hard to make them see, the importance of the industry, I think they already know. Somewhere somebody has to wake up and smell the coffee. We are trying to wake them up. Let's hope we are successful in that. I have my hopes pinned on. I think sooner or later this is going to happen, because somebody will realize that our business is going away to our neighboring countries, and we can't really afford that. So if we do take steps like this, there are so many things that can be done. I don't want to get into the details, but something like this, as easy as this, could be done, and I'm sure it'll affect the survival and revival of this industry, because that's what we're fighting for right now.
So survival and revival, as long as there is another wave of it, because I don't think so this survival and revival can go on. So I think great, we had a great discussion. I think what really would be the takeaway, that there are changes, and these changes are good for us if we have to imbibe into it, be it health, safety, marketing, or sales. All of this are going to help us reduce costs, get greater efficiency going forward. Whether all the other gamut of changes that have happened, whether they'll be transitory or they'll be permanent, is time can see. We have diverse opinions on that. But be it as it may, these are changes which will be good for us. It's not going to be harmful. So it's something that we should go on and on with it. Yeah, and we've really learned that it's made us more humble. It gives us a thought that you have to be financially disciplined by a short period, not on a long-term basis. I think with that, I think we'll check if the audience has any question for the speakers. Namita, if anybody has any question there.
My question to Guru Vax is seeing a panelist and Dr. Vikram and the moderator, Mr. Pradeep. See, I am into industry, MSME, over the last 2 decades. Now, over 1.5, 2 years back, I got an investment to restaurants and the hospitality, you call it that. Now, I see in our restaurants, all this comes under Udyam Aadhar. Now, categorized in Udyamadar as a service unit. And this government, see, it has to be voiced in the government. We are not being considered as a priority sector, not we are given any concession or interest subvention, not being given to this category. Why? So my question is, so now I understand there should be redefined this restaurant industry in the eyes of government or maybe in the ministry. Tourism ministry is sleeping. So I request the platform here, who are, I believe you are from the association platform, topper. So please take this up and tell the government, treat this hotel, restaurant industry also in a priority sector. That's all. Thank you very much.
So, sir, very good question. We hear you and we'll tell you welcome to the industry, because this is one of the most pertinent problems. But I think the recognition as an MSME came for the first time after our efforts during the pandemic. Otherwise, we were not even recognized as an MSME. So with MSME, a lot of other benefits definitely came into us. You're right, the additional benefits which were required are very much due, and that's exactly what we discussed, that with such great employment generation ability, GDP, hospitality share is about 9% of the GDP. With the government, I'm sure Mr. Kohli will tell what kind of efforts have gone in and whether there is any light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, so yes, from more than 2 decades, sir, we've been after the government, and I think some kind of recognition has happened now. We've been finally declared as a hospitality industry, which came just a few months ago. Unfortunately, that came in the wake of the pandemic. So we are right now, I won't say fighting, we are standing shoulder to shoulder with them to ensure that this thing goes through. It has gone through, the GR has also gone through. There are some initial nitpicks which we are solving, and earlier we were not even recognized. Right now, I'm very happy to say that the FHRAI or the regional bodies are now included in every governmental panel. We are there on every panel. Earlier, there was no recognition, as you said, right? There was no coordination, and there was no stakeholder participation. So at least that has come. We take that as a welcome move. And the association is here. We are very widely working with all the related associations, and we are working with AHAR. We are working with the other associations also, and we are taking this forward. And I should think that very soon there should be a lot of announcements on this. The hospitality declaration has already come in. MSME recognition has come in, and we are taking it as much as we can. But please let us know if there's anything else that can be done, and we'd be more than glad to take it forward. Thank you.
Hope there are no more questions. We'll conclude. Yeah. Huh?
Okay, fine.
So my question to all the panelists, because especially for the restaurant industries, you know that we are Buns, for instance, the largest restaurant, more than 15,000 we have. Similarly, the Punjab is for that matter, that in Mumbai. And so far, why you people never try to create a brand? Like, like KFC or like, McDonald's. This is, that one question. The another related to that only. Today, that actually after this pandemic, there is so much of, this, online things are happening like Zomato, or, we talk about Swiggy, these people are taking the share. Now, at least after this pandemic, what is the strategy these, that these restaurants are taking, at least to face this situation? Do you have any plan of action to make it, a better way than what was conventionally doing for the last 100 years? These two questions to, both of you, and if you can answer.
Sir, insofar as branding is concerned, I think there are a number of brands in India now. So I think that's fairly covered. But you probably are talking about problems with the food service aggregators, about Zomato and Swiggy's and the kind of disruption that is happening in the industry. I think that has been taken up. In fact, there is disruption in the room division also. With all these tech comes disruption where now there are new middlemen introduced between the consumer and the hotel and the restaurant. But there is definite lot of being done, like from FHRI, there is an anti-competition case in the Competition Commission going on where all the disruptive methods and predatory pricing issues have been taken up and their correction has taken place. Even in the food, Zomato and Swiggy's, the lot of malpractices which were happening, which were uncontrollable, have also been now addressed to a lot of extent. Yes, the final solution lies in each one of us developing our own sales avenues. Unfortunately, the size of these giants are so much and the technology is so superior, it is very difficult to individual outlets to ape that kind of a technology. So if you are at a Zomato, you can buy something in about 2 minutes, flat, you can select and pay and everything. Each one of us have to do that. So it is an ongoing process. Everybody is trying to sell directly. So there is a campaign which FHRI had which said that go direct, and when you come directly to the restaurant and you don't go to any of the aggregators or the middlemen, you get an additional discount. So that is also catching up. So I think as the time goes by, consumers will start approaching the hotels or the restaurant directly. Of course, technology is one big challenge that lies. So anybody, any additional?
I presume that question wasn't addressed to me because Kamat's is already a well-known, famous brand, far bigger than KFC and McDonald's, at least in India for sure, with over 50 restaurants and over total 80 restaurants across all our brands. I think we are a significant brand with 3,500 people working for us. We have our own training center, our own resources. We are now tying up with Maharashtra Skill Development to ensure that even children who are 6th, 7th, 9th, 10th, NAPAS, means they are not having their graduation, they will be able to come to our university, complete through MCVC, that is Maharashtra Vocational Skill something, I'm sorry, MCVC is the short form. They can complete their graduation of 10th, 12th, and imagine for a boy who is from a village, or a girl also is from a village, and not being able to complete because of financial problem their 10th or 12th. If today by earning and learning for 2 years, they can complete their education and may not continue in this industry, which is fine, but they get a stepping stone. They don't have to worry about resources, finances, and they have creating a skill for life where they can always come back to this industry. I think we are doing a lot, so that's why I don't think that question was primarily addressed to me. And as far as creating a brand goes, I think that the entire Bund community, the entire Shetty community, who are hardcore restaurateurs, have created. Today, if we say Udupi restaurant, it is a brand in itself because people know when you say Udupi restaurant mein khana kaya, they know it will be hygienic, clean, fast, and efficient service. That the community has, thank you, that the community has retained it as its identity and as a joint brand, I think is, and for the community as a whole, is I think a great initiative in itself, and I think we should do more to strengthen that, make sure that what Udupi restaurant concept is only famous in Mumbai, that concept should be taken to so many urban cities which require a same kind of fast, clean and efficient food and service, which is the exact concept which I think McDonald's copied from the Shetty community many years ago. Only they branded it, packaged it well, and took a lot of money from people and became a large corporation, and the community has stuck to its traditional roots. I'm sure if many things are adopted from them, there is no holding back any of the community members.
Unfortunately, Shetty's don't just sell burgers, they sell much more than that.
Yeah, correct, which is great. Why not?
I think we are at the end of the session. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much. I'm sure, like me, you all are also charmed with this amazing 9 speakers who have actually enlightened us with different topics. And I'm sure we may have such more sessions in future as well, wherein, we will be giving more time to each session where we can ask more questions. So this was just an introductory kind of a thing. What we have done is done in this time. I would like to call upon stage Mr. K.C. Shetty, our president, Vice President Mr. S.B. Shetty. I would also like to call upon Prakash Bandari and Kirti Shetty from Channel Freight Service Private Limited to felicitate our speakers and moderators. Requesting Mr. K.C. Shetty to felicitate our moderator, K.C. Shetty sir is felicitating Mr. Kohli, MD Preetham Hotels, Preetham Da Daba and Grand Mama's Cafe. S.B. Shetty sir is felicitating Dr. Vikram Kamath, founder chairman, the WITS Kamath Group. Mr. Prakash Bhandari is felicitating Mr. Pradeep Shetty, chairman, Heritage Group. And Mr. Kirti Shetty is felicitating Mr. Pradeep Shetty, our moderator for the evening. I would also like to call Mr. Bharat Shetty on stage and request our president to felicitate Mr. Bharat Shetty from Aditi Essentials. This session was sponsored by Channel Freight Services Private Limited.